श्री कृष्णं वंदे जगद्गुरुं त्वमादिदेवः पुरुषा पुराणः त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परम निधानं वेत्तासि वेद्यं च परम च धाम त्वया ततं विश्वमनन्तरूप वायु यमः अग्निवर्णः शशाङ्कः प्रजापतिस्त्वं प्रपितामहस्य नमो नमस्तेस्तु सहस्रकृत्वा पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते. You are primeval God and primordial Spirit. You are the ultimate shelter of the universe. You are knower and noble, and the supreme abode. The universe is fully pervaded by you, being of infinite forms. You are the god of wind. You are the god of death. You are the god of fire and water also, the moon god and great grandfather of beings. We salute to you thousands of times and again and again. Now, this session is commencing with a new subject, and that is belong to earth part of Prakriti, that is to be said ego, and I want to tell about some facts about ego, and now I am starting. The earth part of nature is ego. Ego, earth element of divine nature of God. It is very unique element, which is as a person, which is as a poison in the human body. It can be estimated from the uniqueness that form this unique element, even very knowledgeable scent, and eminent scholars are not able to retire. Only Siddh, perfect person, get retirement from the third element called ego. This ego-like image to the excellent seeker makes him very upset. Although we do not recognize it, we do not even try to retire it, and it is not easily retired. This is the characteristic of the ego. The ego is more subtle than the intellect. The intelligence is casual element of ego. And wisdom is the casual element of ego. Wisdom is considered to be the cause of egoism. God has placed the intellect between mind and ego. So excellent, pure and sattvic intellect can quench the mind and suppress the ego. Wisdom knows the speed of the mind. It examines this state of the mind and can rebuke and reprimand it when the mind is inclined towards antisocial activities. Similarly, the intellect can also know the ego, then itself becomes excellent, pure and completely sattvic. The type of intelligence examines the ego and suppresses it or does not even appear. If the ego appears immediately and examines and ends it, the wisdom is considered to be the cause ego because intellect knows ego. The scriptures, there's a description of the Mahatattva, from which is the origin of ego, is told. Presenting this topic of is not relevant in the case. We want to say this much at this place, that since the intellect is superior and speed of the mind, the position of mind and its moment of ego, the position can know the four. Therefore, intellect is the reason for a ego. A mother knows the son's speed, position, consciousness, because she is the cause of the son. The example is presented to understand the cause, the case. It should not be quoted, and intelligence and ego. The state of ego, speed and effort can be understood only with intelligence. For this reason, the intellect should be considered as the cause of ego, and so practiced. One must take measures to get rid of ego located in the body. Type of ego. And now I want to describe some types of ego which is found in many persons, different and different types of ego. The same ego-like element appears in the body in different ways. It is a surprising fact that an ego manifests itself in various forms and performs its function. The client seeker gets to know such type of ego, and the normal person gets subjugated and consumes it. The ego appears in a different form in the human body, and we do not know, and it keeps showing its effect, doing as its effect. Here is also great loss of human being. Many kinds of misdeeds, murders, happen due to the man appears in the body and affects the mind in various ways and makes him walk on the antisocial path. Ego deprived of man, he does his own harm. For this reason, by presenting the type of ego, we are trying to make mankind aware of it. We cannot identify a defect until we are aware of it. It is only by examining the defeat that we can make pleasures to get rid of the defect. In this way, the symptoms of disease appear in the body, and based on the symptoms, we know that this disease is of such a type. The type of disease is known by symptoms and given proper treatment. Description of the types of ego is being presented, keeping all these facts in view. And now I want to present the kinds of ego. And this is very difficult fact because here are so many kinds of ego, the parts of ego. But I want to tell you very important kinds of ego in brief. You can think this presentation. First, arrogance of power. A person, whether in teenage or in puberty or old age, has a sense of force present in his body. By the realization of this force, he considers himself powerful. When the opportunity comes, it also performs immediately. Contextually, When we perform force, we do with the feeling that the power of defeat constants it present in our body. In the same sense, we display the strength of our body or even speak it through speech, that there is power of our body, we can do such a thing, can defeat as much as the capacity of this body exhausted. So he is the end of this ego power. But remembering this force of the past, we say that there was so much force in our body and defeated such and such a strong person. The manifestation of this feeling in the conscience coming spontaneously becomes accidentally, accidentally and incidentally, is also a presentation of form of ego. You may think that in the present time a body is not stressed due to disease or old age, but its ego remains not an object, but ego is being revealed through thought. This apara prakriti, apara nature of God will be called predominance of ego. Arrogance of reputation. When a person gets a lot of wealth, when her opulence spreads in the society, people discuss that such a person has a lot of wealth. There are innumerable assets. Even a person of great wealth knows about his property or through a connected colleague or other means, he comes to know that I have a lot of wealth. He has knowledge about the opulence. He keeps in mind how many properties and establishments we own. This cognizance of his remain in his body as well appears in his speech and again comes in thoughts. He behaves an Seleucian when he appears in such an state in thoughts. When the opportunity comes, even when the opportunity does not come, reputation rushes under the influence. This is the predominance of ego. When a person with a lot of wealth, property, lost his property due to any reason, even after the destruction of property, there is a feeling in his mind that such wealth was with us. When the opportunity comes or does not come, for also involuntarily prove that we had such and such property. This is also a type of ignorance of reputation that appears. Third, arrogance of prestige. There are many types of fields in the society, all art, literature, science, mathematics, technology, astronomy, sports, music, especially legal service, politics, etc. are a myriad of subjects in which one person or many persons in some field get reputation for their outstanding work. The reputation comes from the excellent works for which he has to work hard. Ego of prestige resides in the minds of people with prestige. They do not live with the normal people and count themselves separate from the general society and feel the same. Although humans are one type, prestige compels them the segregation. Being a normal person for consider himself as abnormal, he considers it unusual. The ego that appears in a human being with the ability of reputation is called the ego of prestige. Being a normal person, behaving in an unusual way, manifesting himself in busy form is his symptom. These symptoms occur spontaneously. A normal conversation in the practice, it is observed is working for same reason. If a person of repute loses her reputation, such as a politician who is denoted from this, her position, her security and status is not the same as before, yet he remains immune to the reputation of the past. When the time comes, he says that we had such and such position and we had such and such security system and so facilities. All this the arrogance of the prestige of the past, which is manifest even after reputation is lost. There is the predominance of ego. Fourth, the arrogance of post. Whether the post is small or big, with the main social, politics, government, administrative, the post which a man gets, he behaves according to the post, the security officer. An officer also has the arrogance of the post that we are security officer of a certain officer under this idea. He gets immersed in the ego of the post. The arrogance of the small post is seen in ordinary people, but the arrogance of prestigious right is huge. Man is completely immersed in it. Arrogance of everyone, whether it is social, political, government, or administrative, of a big post appears evident. A person who holds large office is taught to behave in it in the same way as his office confines authority or gives fame. The natural behavior of a person sitting on a big post becomes abnormal. They have normally by external behavior, but internally they are overwhelmed by arrogance of the post. If you tell a highly placed person that you do not have such rights, then he strongly opposes your presentation and tries to prove that we have that right, even if he does not get it. All this is a form of egoism of the post. While in office, the person is impressed in the ego of the post. After the post goes away, after thinking about that post, he tries to present the unnecessary ego in that we have stayed in such and such post. We have done such and such works by staying in such and such post. This representation